This video is brought to you by my wonderful members and Super Chat sponsors. Click the join button to become a member. Imagine you're out with your friends, celebrating an ancient festival, when something unexplainable happens right in front of your eyes. Listen to this story, and tell me what you think. Hey there, Mr. X. Greetings from Sweden. My name is Joel. I thought I'd tell you about something that happened to me and my friends a couple of years ago. One of my friends owns a summer house in the Stockholm archipelago, just outside of Sweden. It's on one of the smaller and less populous islands, but there are at least 10 people or so with summer houses there. A quick description of the summer house. It's not very big. A pretty large main living room connected to 2 smaller bedrooms. A kitchen and a bathroom barely large enough for a shower. The house is surrounded by sparse forest, just thick enough for the property to be pitch black during the night. The complete lack of streetlights on that part of the island is notable. So, one day, in late 2018, my friend invited me and a couple of other guys to hang out during the walpurgis night, a sort of fertility celebration. I only know the English name, and I have no idea as to why it's named that or if it has anything to do with what we actually do for celebration nowadays. Basically, we were going to get drunk, have a barbecue, and a little bonfire. The first night we arrived, we had a great time. Great food, tons of adult beverages, and a raucous party around the fire. In all honesty, the party got a bit out of hand. We ended up having to drag out a water hose to stop the fire from getting out of control after it started spreading outside of the pit. After several hours, I finally had enough to drink. I figured that out when I could no longer sit up straight in my chair. I decided to head inside and find a bed. Being the first one to turn in for the night, I was able to have my pick of the litter. I went straight into what my drunk mind considered to obviously be the best bedroom. It was a very basic room, common among summer homes, I guess. A single bed, a nightstand, small dresser, a desk and chair, and a single window overlooking the backyard forest. The window was covered by a pull-down blind because it gets really bright in the morning. I pulled the blind down before collapsing into the bed. As I laid there, I fumbled with my phone to complete my normal ritual before going to sleep. I pulled up YouTube on my phone and started a playlist of a few videos from my favorite narrators. Not all of it is horror, but the playlist inevitably strays in that direction toward the end. I laid there awake for a lot longer than I was expecting. I listened to several stories. The last story ended, leaving me enveloped in a sort of eerie silence. A few minutes later, I started hearing faint tapping on the outside of the small window in the room. Individual, light taps started slowly, but multiplied over the course of a few seconds. Now, I love sleeping in the rain, and the calming sounds coming from the window brought the relaxing mental image of gentle showers moving over the island. I rolled over onto my side and finally fell asleep. A few hours later, I woke up. It was about 5 a.m., according to my phone. I crawled out of bed to go to the bathroom and maybe find something to drink. As I walked through the living room, I looked out the large windows facing the front of the house. The sun was starting to light up the sky. The entire lawn was bathed in this pale morning light, hampered by the mists that are common on the archipelago. I smiled to myself, appreciating the beauty of the moment. I did my business in the bathroom, grabbed a glass and filled it with whatever non-alcoholic liquid I could find, which ended up being a can of Fanta, before heading back to my room. As I shuffled back into the room, placing the glass on the nightstand, I froze. I noticed the sound of rain still emanating from the window. On the other side of the bed. I poked my head out the door and did a double take on the living room window. I didn't see a single sign of rain. In my post-sleep haze, I began to wonder if someone was playing a prank on me, or maybe someone had left the garden hose on and it was spraying my window. I went back into the living room and did a head count of the people sleeping around the house. Everyone was accounted for, and totally passed out. So once again, I checked the large window. I opened it and stuck my head out. where I could see the outside of the window of the room I had been sleeping in. I had to rub my eyes a bit because what I was seeing confused me. Floating near my window was what looked like a small cloud. It was grayish in color, about the size of a large yoga ball, if that makes sense. As I looked at it, I could see that there was motion inside of it, various shapes swirling and oscillating inside the mist. A chill went down my spine when I realized that the rain sounds must have been coming from whatever that was. Still being a bit hazy, I decided that if something was outside my window, I would be able to head back to my room and take a closer look. I wanted to try and record whatever was outside so I could show my friends when they woke up. I quietly closed the living room window, went back to my room, unlocked my phone, hit record, and slowly slid my phone under the closed blind. The rain sounds still rang out faintly. For some reason, I was a little scared to look out with my own eyes. I started to feel like I might be in danger somehow. I held the phone with a slightly shaky hand. After about 2 minutes, I pulled my phone back and opened up my video recordings folder. My heart was racing as I clicked on the video. When it started, I could clearly see that the gray mist hovering outside my window showed up on the screen. I began to feel a little sick when I started noticing what looked like hands with long fingernails tapping against the window. It was a swarm of human-looking hands, each one carefully and meticulously tapping gently, perfectly imitating the sound of rain. The entire frame of video was filled with this horrifying image. Countless hands. Knowing that I probably went too far at that point, I decided to shut the whole thing down. I didn't even want to wake my friends to bring anyone else into it. I pulled the mattress off my bed and dragged it into the living room. I plopped it down next to my still passed out friends. Maybe it was my desire to get away from the terror of that moment, but I was able to fall asleep surprisingly fast. I woke up again later that morning to see everyone slowly getting up. I immediately went back to the room to see if I could hear the rain. There was only silence. The silence emboldened me to pull the blinds open and look out the window. There was nothing out of the ordinary. In a series of decisions I obviously now regret, I decided not to mention the incident to my friends. I even stupidly deleted the video from my phone because I simply didn't want to think about it again. We were, after all, supposed to stay there another night. Anyway, I wanted to know if you or your listeners had any idea of what this might have been. I like to tell myself I was just sleepwalking or something, but it genuinely felt real. I was lucid throughout, although a little drunk. Anyway, thanks for listening, Mr. X. Sincerely, Joel. Alright, my friends, that is one of the most haunting images I think I've ever had to tell in story form. I'll get into my thoughts about this story, then we'll check out what the dreamers listening to the live show have to say. So, first of all, I looked into this walpurgis night situation over there in Sweden. I found that it actually originated from some sort of pagan celebration of fertility and the onset of spring, which those things are typically seem to be connected. So from what I've seen, the celebration takes place on April 30th, halfway between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. Some Germanic folklore accounts say that on that night, sometime in the past, witches were seen flying through the skies. So the bonfires are lit to ward off the flying witches, with the assumption that witches dislike smoke. From what I've seen, the cultural holiday itself is named after the Catholic Saint Walpurgis, or Walpurgis, I'm not sure how you say it, who is said to be, among other things, associated with protection against magic, however that works. As we can see, these days, many of those who celebrate events around the world, they're mainly in it for the party that comes along with it. Nobody really cares. For the most part, I'd say 7 to 9 out of 10 people, if you tell them that there's going to be a party and there's going to be a bonfire and they're drinking, they don't really care what the deep cultural historical significance of this celebration is anyway. But, that's besides the point. Still, even with that being said, the fact that people don't even really care about the origins of that celebration, I wonder if the history of the festival itself has anything attached to it that's goes beyond the lens of mundane reality, if you know what I mean. Maybe just the fact that the roots of this celebration have something to do with magic and witches and things like that. I wonder if there's anything that might be going on behind the scenes there. Interesting thing to think about, if you ask me. Also, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, I would absolutely love for people to preserve the vital evidence of supernatural incidents when they record them on their phone. We were this close, folks, to getting undeniable evidence of paranormal activity. I say with the slightest hint of sarcasm. I'm sure the many dreamers who happen to be of the witchy variety may be able to shed some light as to what spirits, entities, or other phenomenon might have been responsible, in theory, for the strange events Joel described in the story. And I look forward to being educated in the comments down below. I had there's a bunch of self-described witches around in the dreamer community that are usually pretty good with sharing their opinions and their perspectives on these types of things. So, like I said, I look forward to being enlightened on that. So, my friend, what do you think about this story? Have you ever heard of a cloud of hands that sounds like rain because of their long fingernails tapping on windows? It's a very unique story, in my opinion. Do you think it was a hallucination of sorts, or do you believe that it might have really happened in real life, real time? If you do think it was real, why do you think Joel was targeted by this bizarre phenomenon? Why would it not go around the entire house, for example? And lastly, I'm just going to ask you to give me this assurance. If you're listening to me, or if you're a listener or a dreamer at all of this channel, please promise me that if you ever catch any kind of paranormal event on camera, that no matter what, you will not delete it before you send it to me. You don't even have to watch it. If you know that there's something on there, pop open your email app and send it to me, and then you can delete it after that. But for goodness sake, don't delete your paranormal evidence on your phone if there is such a thing. So now let's see what the dreamers listening live have to say about this story. Remember, if you want a chance at your question or comment showing up in a future video, or the chance to sponsor a video with a super chat, please turn on notifications so that you catch the live reading and discussion. So Ambar says, this reminds me of the whole foot over the edge of the bed, creepy hands coming up and getting you. Now you hear rain and it's the disembodied hands, possibly of children. Who knows? It's just such a disturbing and disarming, no pun intended, feeling to think of. Okay, he sees it on the outside of the house. It's just a cloud. It looks like a cloud, but when he sees it from the inside, that view of just imagining thousands of or unknown numbers of hands with long, decrepit, I imagine, fingernails, just lightly and gently tapping. It's out of this world. I don't know what I would do if I saw that in real life. Tariko says they drank a Fanta and summoned a phantasm. That's a pretty good one. Cindy says, there's no way I would be able to sleep after seeing something like that. I agree 100%. I mean, unless I was having a panic attack and I just needed to lay down and close my eyes, which I've never, the one time I did have a panic attack in my life, I was unable to lay down because I was stuffed into a small box, a small wooden box, and I was kind of extremely uncomfortable and began having a panic attack. But yeah, I would imagine if you're having a panic attack of something you're seeing and you're just out free and moving around, you might want to lay down and just pass out. That could happen. I'm not sure, but it seems plausible. Creepy Clown Girl says, could the alcohol have influenced what they saw? Or did something unexplainable really visit them that night? Either way, really creepy. Agreed. I would imagine, I don't really hear a lot of stories of alcohol playing a role in someone hallucinating. Maybe, mistaking what they're actually seeing, or, changing the way they feel about their environment or how they interact with it, but straight up hallucinations of crazy, creepy things, that's not really something I've heard many times in my experience. Interesting thought though. Samantha says, seriously, a mass of energy trying to reach out. That side of the world, definitely different neighborhood. The creature or phantasm may have been feeding off drunk in energy and could only do. I think I cut off a part of your comment there, Samantha. But I think what you're trying to say is, whatever that entity could have been, it might have been something that is feeding off of the energy of the celebration itself. Maybe people might not realize it, but they are contributing to some sort of energetic exchange when they do this walpurgis celebration. It could very well be. It's an interesting thing to think about, because who knows? What if those hands are somehow the essences of all the witches that were annoyed by the smoke stacks from these bonfires over the past 500 years? Who knows? It's just fun things to kind of throw back and forth. That's why I love this little section at the end of the videos, that we can sort of spitball and throw things at the wall and think about different far out concepts. Philia Noctis says, May Day is a thinning of the veil, just like Halloween and April 30th would be just before May Day. So it's possible that it could be something from the other side. That makes sense to me, Philia Noctis. That is definitely something that I would consider a possibility within the suspending of disbelief of this type of story, the way that we like to do. But yeah, definitely a bunch of interesting ideas and thoughts and concepts. And I find it strange that almost every one of these stories that I read has one seemingly obscure instant or piece of information about it, like the other story we read recently with the abandoned railroad track that's buried on the farm. This situation with, hey, it just so happened we were going to have a party because of this random celebration that happens over here. There's almost always something going on in the background. The gang violence in the neighborhood where the boy saw shadow figures. There's always something that we can use our imaginations to expand our view of the story itself and the reasoning behind the things that are happening, and sort of theorize and play with the elements of the story, even things that seem insignificant at first glance. And like I said, that's why this is my favorite part. So that's where we're going to end this story. But before you go, think about this. Samantha came up with the perfect code word for this story. If you're still listening, type the word Fanta into your comment down below so we can see who the real dreamers are. Until next time, my friends, take care. All right. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, don't forget to like and share. If you made it to the very end, you're exactly the kind of subscriber I'm looking for. Don't forget to turn on those notifications. That way, you can catch the live show and discuss the stories with me. Your input might even appear in my next video. Last thing, if you heard a code word after the story, type it in a comment down below so I know who the real dreamers are. Take care, my friend. Until next time.